This is section 4.1, and we are talking about fractions. Here's the definition of a fraction. When a whole unit is divided into equal parts, we call the parts fractions of a whole. So here we've eaten 1/5 of a pizza and 4/5 remain. So a fraction written in the form a over b, when a and b are integers, the numerator is the top number and denominator is the bottom number. And a fraction whose numerator is an integer and denominator is also an integer is called a rational number. So if we're going to write a fraction for the shaded portion, we would count the shaded pieces. There's 13 and there's 16 total pieces. So the shaded portion of this triangle is 13/16. The unshaded portion, there's 3 pieces that are not shaded. There are 16 total. So 13/16 of this triangle is unshaded. And here we have properties of fractions. They're the same as the properties of division. Dividing by 0 is still undefined. One thing to note is that every fraction is either positive or negative. We either have positive 1/2 or a negative 1/2. So if you do some math and you end up with -1 negative halves, that doesn't really make any sense. We know that would be a positive. Similarly, if we end up with a negative sign in the denominator, we know this whole fraction is negative. We would just move the negative sign out to the side, or we might leave it with the numerator, but it's -1/2. It's never going to be 1 negative halves. That wouldn't make any sense. So next we're going to look at proper and improper fractions. So a proper fraction, the numerator is less than the denominator, and it's also less than 1. So this is an example of a proper fraction. 1/3, 6/7. These are proper fractions. An improper fraction, the numerator is greater than or equal to the denominator, and its value is greater than or equal to 1. So 4/3 and 7/7 are improper fractions. A positive improper fraction represents a quantity greater than 1. So 1 and 1/3 is also called 4/3, 7/7. These are improper. So 12/5 there is an improper fraction. 5/12 is a proper fraction. 12/12 is also improper. Write an improper fraction representing the length of the screw in this picture. And so what we will do is look at each unit is divided into 8 parts. So each of these is 1/8. There's 8/8, 9, 10, 11/8. We're going to write an improper fraction representing the shaded area. So each of these is divided into 7ths. So we have 7/7, 7 more 7ths, and 1 more 7th. So we have 15/7 altogether. In general, a mixed number is the sum of a whole number and a fractional part. We typically leave the plus sign out. So 3.5 means 3 plus 1/2, but we're going to write it this way. Okay, if we want to change a mixed number to an improper fraction, there are some steps that we can follow. And we're going to multiply the whole number times the denominator. 7 times 4 is 28. We add the numerator and put the whole thing over the denominator. So it's going to be 29/4. Here we're going to recognize that this whole quantity is negative, and 8 times 5 is 40, plus 2 is 42/5, and then it will still be negative. Okay, to change an improper fraction to a mixed number, we're going to recognize that a fraction is a quotient of integers, and so we're going to use division. So we're going to divide 25 by 6, so we divide 6 into 25. It goes 4 times, and we have a remainder of 1. Our remainder will go over our divisor. So we have 4, and that remainder is 1 over the divisor, 6. So 25/6 is going to be 4 and 1/6. Negative 39 over 4. We do 39 divided by 4, and it's 9 with a remainder of 3. And we put the remainder again over the divisor. So it's 9 3/4. Negative 9 3/4 in this case. Here we're going to write the quotient as a mixed number. So we have 529 25ths, and we're going to write that as a mixed number. So we do the division, and we get 21 with a remainder of 4. And remember, that's going to go over the divisor. So 21 4 25ths. So here we're going to be plotting fractions on a number line. The number 1/2 is right there, halfway between 0 and 1. 5, 6. So each one of these represents a sixth, and that's where 5, 6 goes. Negative 21/5. Well, it's also negative 4 1/5. So we're going to start at negative 4 and then continue to the left till we have negative 4 1/5. Determining the absolute value, so that's the distance from 0. It doesn't matter if it's a fraction, it's always going to be positive. The absolute value of 1/5 is going to be 1/5. Now we have the opposite of the absolute value of negative 4/9. So the absolute value of negative 4/9 is 4/9, and the opposite will make it negative 4/9. And here we just have the opposite of the quantity, negative 4/9. So the opposite of a negative will make it a positive 4/9. And here are some skill practice problems for you to try.